we will leave you with one message, which is at the discretion of the Vice President. 250 million requested on August 22, 2022. Walang computation, walang projection, at walang planong attached. So, ano po ang several key points na nailahad ngayon po ng testigo? Una, the amount came before the plan. On August 22, 2022, the Vice President requested 250 million at her own discretion. It is not accompanied by any plans, attachments, or breakdown. Kumbaga, nag-request po siya ng pera na walang plano kung paano gagamitin ang pera. Pangalawa, VP Sara owns the chain. Everything related to confidential funds was authorized, signed off, and directed by the Vice President. If there is no approval, there is no release of funds. Pangatlo, the 2023 plan was copied. May expected outcome, physical targets, and budget matched the 2022 one exactly. Only the program label changed. Kumbaga, kinopya lang yung previous plan. Neither plan names a specific program. Pang-apat, the total amount remained the same. Every quarter hit exactly 125 million. Nakakapagtaka. When a 40 million medical food line disappeared 5 days after COA's October 4 finding, the total held. Panglima, the 125 million gone in 11 days. Ortonio corrected counsel and calculated it himself. 125 million cleared in 11 days for a fund meant to cover a full quarter. Pang-anim, the security case weakened. There was no known threat, walang coordination with law enforcement, while personnel had already grown from 95 to 473, which was funded separately. Pang-pito, changing explanations. The OVP provided at least 5 different explanations for the same confidential funds across the time of the request, time used, and time of liquidation, as well as COA questioning. The amount came before the plan. There was no computation attached, unlike the 3 other requests in the same letter. Walang projection rin na naka-attach. Wala ring physical and financial plan na naka-attach. At ang PFP mismo ay hindi dumating until September 16, 3 weeks later. The three other requests in the same DBM letter, which was for financial assistance and subsidy, special duty allowance, 192 additional positions, each carried complete computations and attachments. Only the confidential fund line came in blank. Nauna ang halaga bago ang plano. Every step in the chain runs through the Vice President. Ortonio confirmed it under cross-examination by Senator Escudero. Sabi ni Ortonio, if there is no approval by the Vice President, there is no release of funds. The Vice President sets the amount. Ortonio confirmed that VP Sara decided to request confidential funds and determined the final figure. Her signature approved it. The Vice President's signature on the PFP certified the cash advance as necessary, lawful, and incurred under her direct supervision. Ortonio's authority came from hers. Ortonio's authority to approve disbursement vouchers was delegated to him by the Vice President herself. Mr. Ortonio testified that the Vice President had knowledge and visibility over everything related to the confidential funds. The 2023 plan reads like a copy of the 2022 plan. Ortonio confirmed that the content matched, only the umbrella label had changed. Pare-pareho ang expected outcome, ang physical targets, ang budget, at ang program label. Neither plan identifies the specific programs the confidential funds were meant to support. Ang laman ay pareho, iba lang ang pangalan. Humingi ng pera ng walang plano. VP Sara sets the amount. Sara chooses the 125 million figure and requests the funds. Walang planong naka-attach. The August 22, 2022 letter carries no computation or physical financial plan. The PFP follows 3 weeks later. The plan arrives after, tapos nang mag-request Her signature approves. The Vice President authority enables every release that follows. And the total remains the same. Every liquidation lands on exactly 125 million despite removing some line items. Paano natin malalaman na kailangan ng ganito kalaking pera kung wala palang plano at wala ka pang computation? At pagtapos gastusin, kahit nagbabago ang paliwanag at mga item, bakit laging eksaktong 125 million ang nauubos? There is the same total every 4 quarters. From quarter 4 2022 to quarter 3 2023, every quarter lands on 125 million pesos, or a total of 500 million pesos. The first 3 accomplishment reports carried medical and food aid worth 40 million, 42 million, and 40 million respectively. 5 days after COA's October 4 AOM questioned the fund, the next report dropped that line entirely. The total stayed exactly 125 million. Nagbago ang laman, pero hindi nagbago ang total. 125 million gone in 11 days. 11 days by his own count. Ortonio did the math himself. Binasa niya lang mismo sa dokumento, confirming that the amount allocated for 3 months was spent in 11 days. 11 days. Ulitin ko, 11 days, sabi ni Ortonio upon cross-examination by Senator Cheese. The number came from him. It is not a prosecution estimate. Ortonio himself recalculated it live, correcting counsel on the stand. The fund was for 3 months. The liquidation report number 2022-12-152 was meant to cover October, November, and December. Pero lahat ng funds na ito ay ginamit lamang in 11 days. And there was a gap. 11 days of spending against roughly 90 days of intended coverage. Security was the stated reason, but the record doesn't back it. The afternoon testimony added a direct factual contrast. 1, there was no identified threat. Sabi mismo ni Ortonio na wala siyang personal knowledge na any specific threat at the time of the 2022 request. Pangalawa, walang law enforcement coordination. Wala rin siyang personal knowledge ng any coordination with security agencies. Pangatlo, the personnel had already tripled. The security complement grew from 95 to 473, funded separately from confidential funds. At pang-apat, no incidents without the fund. No untoward incidents at OVP satellite offices or projects, even without confidential fund coverage. What additional security function was the confidential fund actually paying for? At hindi po yun ay isinagot. So if I were to leave you with something today, it would be this. Lahat ng bagay kaugnay sa confidential funds mula sa pag-request, pag-release, ay nalalaman ng Vice Presidente, inotorisa at nasa ilalim ng kanyang supervision bilang head of agency, tinanong ni Presiding Officer Cheese. Ang sinabi ni Lemuel Ortonio, opo. In short, lahat po ng galing yun ay sa Vice President. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Attorney Hess. Salamat po sa iyong presentation. We will pause for a brief moment while we allow our guests to settle down. Nagbabalik po ang press briefing ng House Prosecution Panel. Ngayong hapong ito, palad po tayo, kasama natin ang lead prosecutor ng ating mga House of Representatives Prosecution Panel. Walang iba kundi si Representative Jervil Jinky Beatrix Luistro ng 2nd District ng Batangas. Ang ating Deputy Speaker Francisco Paulo Ortega the fifth ng La Union at ang ating counsel for the prosecution spokesperson, Attorney Benjamin J. Tolosa Jr. Siguro po, bigyan natin ng pagkakataon makapagbigay ng paunang pananalita ang ating lead prosecutor.
Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. So for today, Secretary and at the same time, Assistant Chief of Staff ng Office of the Vice President sa katauhan po ni Limuel Ortonio. Malaki po ang naging partisipasyon niya sa buong proseso ng confidential fund from the request to the disbursement to the liquidation and even certification in compliance with the Joint Circular 2015-05. I would say na very material ang naging testimonya ni Mr. Ortonio because first and foremost, na-bolster niya, na-highlight niya, na-emphasize niya yung mga irregularities with respect to the supposed compliance in the Joint Circular 2015-01, kagaya po ng aking mga binanggit, partikular sa pag-request ng confidential fund, sa disbursement ng confidential fund, sa utilization ng confidential fund, and even in the liquidation of confidential fund. Another important thing that was highlighted today is the fact that Mr. Ortonio was authorized by the head of agency to conduct the overall supervision. And to be specific, he went on saying administrative and financial supervision. And that's why he likewise testified na kaugnay pa rin ng pagre-request ng confidential fund, ang paggamit nito at maging sa liquidation nito ay saklaw pa rin ng kanyang supervisory power na ipinagkaloob sa kanya ng head of agency sa katauhan ni Vice President Sara Duterte. So that would be all for our opening statement today.
Salamat po, Chair Jinky. Siguro kung may open na natin ang para sa mga katanungan. Unahin na natin si Haji, as usual.
Magandang hapon po, Haji Kaaminyo ng Brigada News FM. Kanina po na-emphasize yung reminder na maging maingat nga po sa mga salitang ginagamit. Like for example po yung mga modus, pagsisinungaling, what else, yung scam, etc. Yung nagagamit po ng ating counsel for the public prosecutors. How do you address po that? And kumbaga na maghinay-hinay or kumbaga ma-remind yung mga kasamahan po ninyo sa prosecution na of course naiintindihan naman na nakikarried away nga po ng kanilang direct examination?
Well, first of all, tayo po ay gumagalang at sumusunod sa impeachment court. However, pursuant to the task of the prosecution team, we are conscious as well that we need to be accurate. Pag sinabi nating accurate, dapat yung binibitawhan mong salita sakto doon sa gusto mong ipahayag or tumutukoy exactly doon sa nangyayari, which is the subject matter of the testimony of the witness, no? So, minanifest naman kanina ni Attorney May na naging passionate siya, no? But apart from being passionate, I hope the people would understand that we are mandated as well to be very much accurate in communicating not only to the senator judges, but also to the Filipino people, which is the party that the prosecution team is representing, no? We are aware that what is at stake is the interest of the Filipino people. And that is why, habang nagko-conduct ng trial, hindi rin namin maialis sa aming sarili na maging very much accurate, sakto, maliwanag, klaro, sa gusto naming tukuying salita o pangyayari habang ginaganap itong paglilitis na ito. Nevertheless, kung ano man ang naging observation ng impeachment court with respect to the utterances or choice of words kanina ni Attorney May, we respect that and we will definitely abide with the impeachment court. Sa part naman ng buong team, of course, we are reminding each other to be very cautious in the choice of words so that we will not be prompting the impeachment court to cause any disciplinary action or whatsoever against the prosecution team.
Punta po ako dun sa sa point na kung saan sinabi po ni Lemuel Ortonio na batay po sa nakuha niyang information from Colonel La Chica, yung confidential funds daw po ay ibinibigay doon sa informant. Tapos yung informant na po yung bumibili ng food, ng medicines, yung bumibili po ng tables at saka ng chairs. Tapos nabati din po doon sa direct examination sa kanya na obligations were already incurred nga daw po. Tapos nabanggit pa nga na arrangements yung kanilang ginamit. Nakakadagdag po ba sa bigat yun na yung pera binibigay sa informant tapos pinambibili po ng informant ng tables and the chairs? Dagdag po ba yun sa irregularities sa pananaw po ninyo?
Well,
I'm sure the senator judges would consider this. No, is it normal for an informant to declare ano ang intention niya dun sa nakuha niya ng pera, kung anong ipangbibili niya dito? No, remember, supposedly payment to ng rewards sa informant. Tapos na dapat ang transaction nyo. May nagbigay ka na dapat na impormasyon, as a kabayaran, as a reward, bibigyan ka ng pera. Supposedly, yun ang sinabi nila. No? So normal ba, dun sa informant, kailangan pa niyang sabihin, yung binigay mong pera, ipangbibili ko ng gamot. No? Tulad ni Mary Grace Piatos, for example, bibili ko ng 70,000 na gamot. No? At napakadami naman nila na kailangan pa nilang dalawang bagay. Lahat sila kailangan nilang bumili ng gamot at lahat sila kailangan pang ideklara na bibili sila ng gamot or bibili sila ng food supplies or bibili sila ng, as you mentioned, tables and chairs. No? I'm sure the senator judges would consider that. Is that consistent with ordinary human experience? No? Just like any other transaction, pagkatapos ka nabayaran, ilalagay mo pa ba? Doon sa receipt mo, magsha-shopping ako mamayang gabi. Kung ano yung binili, diyan ko ilalagay yan, di ba? So, it has significance definitely, but kung ang pagtitimbang niyan, of course, we'll leave it to the senator judges. No? But just like any other evidence, kailangan mo kasing ibanggayan with ordinary human experience para makita kung credible ba yung explanation na binibigay or hindi.
Mas nga yung pagpapaliwanag parang mapupunta nga sa depensa kung bakit ganun yung paggamit saka pag-utilize po nung pera, no. Hindi ko na tuloy alam paano ako sasagot dahil yung sinabi ni Kong Jinky kanina pero parang may mga salising nangyayari yung chichiryagang no? Parang salisigang pa yung dating nila. Pero sa atin naman po, na-address natin na may gap talaga yung pag-liquidate nila. Parang ngayon makikita mo parang meron silang gap sa kanilang HR kasi based po dun sa mga nangyari sa mga nakaraang araw, makikita mo na parang kulang yata sa competence saka hindi nagkukulang sa skill, magaling sila dun. Magaling sila sa ginagawa nila. Pero yung competence saka yung tamang paraan po ng pagbigay ng pera at paglabas ng pera, tingin ko nagkakaproblema doon. May gap sila kung competent ba sila sa trabaho nila o nagagawa nila ng tama yung trabaho nila. Kasi parang petty cash na yung pag-handle nila doon sa pera. Bahala na kung saan nila gagamitin. Basta makagawa sila ng kahit ano na parang may sarili din silang sinusunod na type of liquidation para din silang may sariling pamamaraan kung paano i-utilize yung pera. Kaya parang personal money, petty cash na nangyari dyan. Pero sabi ko nga, sa mga susunod na araw, sa mga susunod na hearing, makikita natin mas mabigat pa po sa side nga nila kung paano nila papatunayan, kung saan eksakto ginamit yung pera na yun.
If I may add something to that, no? For me, parang may declaration against interest yan. Kasi ang statement ni Mr. Ortonio na pera po ang ibinibigay with undertaking ng recipient na ibibili ng gamot. Pero iba yung nakalagay sa papel. Ang nakalagay sa documents nila, sa AR, acknowledgement receipts, ibinili ng gamot. But if you will review his testimony, pera ang ibinigay. At may undertaking ang recipient na ibibili ng gamot. What do we call that? We call that misrepresentation. Kasi ang sinasabi sa dokumentong isinabmit mo, sa acknowledgement receipts, gamot ang ipinamigay sa recipients. And then during the trial, inaamin mo, pera ang ibinigay with the undertaking of the recipient na ibibili ito ng gamot. At tama, si DS Pau doon, si Attorney J, di na natin alam kung talaga bang ibibili yan ng gamot o hindi. But what is clear here, may misrepresentation na malinaw na naganap. Ang nakasaad sa papel, ibinili ng gamot. Ang testimonya ni Mr. Ortonio, pera ang ibinigay with the undertaking na ibibili ng gamot. So which is which?
Okay, last na lang po, sorry. What about yung 150,000 na inabonohan po ni Lemuel Ortonio kasi dapat 125 lang pero sumobra po yata sa liquidation. Tapos hanggang ngayon nga raw po ay hindi pa nare-reimburse o nababawi yung kanyang ipinang-abono na 150.
Eh di ba sa kanila mismo nang galing, ang confidential fund ay bawal gamitin sa reimbursement. Di ba? So yung 150,000 na yon na ni-request ni Gina Acosta at parang inabonohan muna ni Mr. Ortonio, definitely you cannot charge that to confidential fund. Kasi yun yung paulit-ulit kong naririnig from the time of the state auditor to Gina Acosta hanggang kanina kay Mr. Ortonio. Ang confidential fund ay bawal gamitin as reimbursement, no? Bagaman hindi pa rin po malinaw yung liquidation documents nila. Kasi since day one of our presentation, ng evidence in support of Article 1, misuse of confidential fund, ay malaking katanungan na yan ng prosecution. Bakit yung 125 million na confidential fund nung niliquidate ay 125 million 150,000 na, no? So, hindi ako satisfied sa explanation na narinig ko kanina.
All right.
I'll just add very quickly na dun sa first question mo, just want to make it clear that there's no intention on the part of the prosecution to generate sound bites. To borrow the words of Attorney May, we just call a spade a spade. No? We call it as we see it. So, and these are fair questions. Pag tinanong mong nagsisinungaling ba, those are normal questions. Pwede talagang tanungin yan, no? Sa testigo. And the witness is free to answer. Kung hindi, sasabihin niya hindi. No? Even if kung tatanungin siya na, was it a scam? Pwede naman niyang sabihin hindi. Even, they should welcome that. On redirect or cross-examination, pwede siyang magkaroon ng pagkakataon at ipaliwanag niya bakit hindi siya scam, no? So those are fair questions. But just the same, of course, as mentioned by Chair Jinky, we will abide, no? Now we'll be more careful. But just to clarify, no, those questions have legitimate reasons behind them. They're not asked just to generate sound bites. No, we call it as we see it. So kung ang dating dun sa cross-examiner or nagtatanong, no, mukhang may basis to ask, based dun sa mga narinig niya, for example, I'm not saying it is, but I'm just saying when the question is asked, was it a scam? Dahil mayroon yung basehan bago siya dumating doon. Ngayon, free naman yung witness to say kung sasabihin niyang, no, it's not a scam. No? So, just to clarify that point.
Okay, thank you po. Matapos po si Haji, ang magtatanong naman si Rosalie. Go ahead, Rosalie.
Hello. Good afternoon po, ma'am and sir. Today po, naglabas po ng statement ang Armed Forces of the Philippines saying na terminated na po nila yung inquiry dun po sa investigation kala Colonel Nolasco at Colonel Lachica in relation po dito sa confidential funds ng OVP at ng DepEd. And this was confirmed by Defense Secretary Chodoro. How will this affect your decision considering na pinag-aaralan nyo pa po yun pong kung isasalang po ba ninyo bilang witness ito pong dalawang AFP officers na ito?
Ang prosecution ay palaging guided ng articles of impeachment, no? So, let us go back to the allegations under Article 1. Ang sabi dyan, misuse, misappropriation, and irregular liquidation of confidential fund. So what we are testing here is the completeness of the evidence that has been presented so far in relation to the allegations in the articles of impeachment, no? So if we, based on our evaluation, kulang pa, perhaps we can consider to present the AFP officers. But if upon revisiting the evidence that has been presented already, lalabas na kompleto na yung allegations, we apply the test. The test of repetition, paulit-ulit na ba? The test of redundancy, kalabisan na ba? The test of lack of necessity, wala na bang pangangailangan? Kung ang sagot sa lahat ng yan is in the affirmative, might as well we dispense with the presentation of the witness. But right now, wala pa po tayong final na decision because time and again, ang sinasabi po ng prosecution, we always revisit the list of the witnesses of the prosecution. Now, with respect to the conclusion of the supposed investigation of the AFP, of course, we are interested to know kung ano ang result ng investigation nila. But nevertheless, let us always remember this is impeachment trial, sui generis. This is neither criminal, nor civil, nor administrative. Kung ano man ang nangyari dun sa AFP, in as far as their investigation is concerned, that will not in any way bar the impeachment proceeding, much less the presentation of the AFP officers in the person of Colonel Lachica and Colonel Nolasco.
Pero ma'am, at this point in time, gaano po ba hindi po ba maituturing na valuable yung magiging testimony ni Colonel Lachica kasi siya po lagi yung binabanggit ni Ma'am Acosta at saka po ni Sir Ortonio na sa kanya binigay, sa kanya nirelease yung pera, siya yung nakakita o kung saan ginastos itong pondong ito. Yun po yung, kumbaga, kung para po sa public, hindi pa nila napapakinggan yung version po ni Colonel Lachica and Nolasco.
Okay. So, we understand that, no? Parang at first glance, dahil lang naririnig mo paulit-ulit kay Gina Acosta, binigay niya yung pera kay Lachica, naririnig natin paulit-ulit si Lachica. So, first glance, mukhang napakasimple ng sagot. Sabihin natin, pakinggan na natin si Lachica, no? Pero that presumes that if we will put him on the stand, he will give us the truth. But we have no basis to make that assumption, no? And every time you call a hostile witness, this is decision that you cannot make lightly, no? Because every time you call a hostile witness, it has serious inherent risks, no? So, question, do we need to take that risk? Kailangan pa ba? So, at mentioned by Kong Jinky, pag namimili kami ng sinong ipipresenta namin, ang number one dyan is, do we need it to meet our evidentiary targets? Or nahit na ba namin yan through the use of other witnesses? All the more so, kapag hostile witness ang uupo mo, no? Kung walang absolute necessity for it, you don't do it. No? Kasi you can minimize it. For example, with respect kay Ms. Acosta, meron na siyang statements under oath about this topic given in the hearings before the House of Representatives. So, kung magsisinungaling siya, we can call her out, no? Hindi tulad dito. So, kaya hindi siya ganun kasimple, no? And lalo na, he's under investigation, no? We're not saying that we are sure 100% he's going to lie. We're not saying that. But what we're saying is, merong possible motivation to lie dahil nga, no, pwede siyang masubject to personal liability, even criminal in nature. No? So, again, hindi ko sinasabi magsisinungaling siya, pero merong serious risk na yan ang mangyayari. So, that's why we're not jumping into that decision na, okay, let's call him just because na tatawag yung pangalan niya ng ilang beses na. No? Pangalawa, even strategically, when you call a hostile witness, we saw what happened to Miss Acosta. Paano ang cross-examination niya? Hindi ba ang nagbigay ng lahat ng detalye yung other party? No? Ang ginawa niya was just saying yes. No? Pero ang nagsusupply ng mga kasagutan, yung abogado ng kabila. No? Dahil yun ang nature. No? Dahil nga hostile witness siya, they're on cross, pwede silang mag-direct examination. So, question, takot ba kami na umupo sa witness stand si La Chica? Definitely not. Kung ipapatawag nila, go ahead, di ba? And we're ready to cross-examine him. Oh? So, kaya nga ang tanong dyan, mas strategic ba sa amin na kami ang tumawag? Kailangan ba namin siya? Or mas magandang kung na-present naman na namin ang kailangan namin, napakita naman na namin na nakuha talaga ang pera ni Ms. Acosta, sinabi na niya, upon the directions of Vice President, ibigay ang kay La Chica. Inamin na niya, si La Chica hindi yan SDO. Sinabi na ng COA auditors, bawal ibigay ng SDO sa taon na hindi SDO, hindi fidelity bonded. Tapos, naririnig na natin yung mga irregularities dun sa na nakita ng mga COA, no, auditors, kung paano supposedly ginamit to. So kung hindi na namin may absolute necessity yan, then if they see the need to call him to explain this matters, kung saan niya ginamit, then they can do it and will be prepared to cross-examine him. No? So again, it's a matter of strategy. But at the end of the day, sa lahat ng sinabi namin at titimbangin natin dyan in making that decision, whether or not we will call him, ang pinaka-importante dyan is absolutely necessary pa ba siya para patunayan namin yung essential evidentiary targets namin. Yun yun. So kaya hindi pa namin masarado yung decision ngayon, hindi pa kami tapos. No? So, after we present these other witnesses pa, then we'll make a definitive decision on whether there's still a need to take those risks and present him as a hostile witness or no more.
Sorry, last na lang po. Meron po bang ginagawang coordination na po yung Office of the Ombudsman sa House Prosecution Team o kaya po sa Committee on Justice regarding po dun sa mga isinagawa nyo pong legislative inquiry dito po sa confidential funds ni VP Duterte. Lalo na po at binanggit din po ni Defense Secretary Chodoro na tinerminate po nila yung kanilang inquiry kila Colonel La Chica and Nolasco dahil nga po nagsasagawa na ng investigation ang Ombudsman noon pong November.
So the last update that I know about the committee report na sinubmit ng House of Representatives, this is the committee report of Committee on Good Government and Public Accountability, then presided by Congressman Joel Chua. Pinasagot ng Office ng Ombudsman yung mga respondent. That includes, I believe, even the respondent Vice President, pati sina Gina Acosta, sina Attorney Sulaika, if I am not mistaken, and even Mr. Ortonio, no? But from the time of the submission of their respective counter-affidavits, wala pa kaming bagong update, no? And in fact, we will be very much interested to know also kung meron bang bagong development ang investigation ng Ombudsman. We understand this is preliminary investigation, administrative proceeding as well, no? Sapagkat kagaya ng sinabi nyo, nag-umpisa ang investigasyong ito sa Inquiry in Aid of Legislation ng Committee on Good Government and Public Accountability back in the 19th Congress. That was in 2024 pa, no? As a matter of fact, yung mga evidence na nakikita nyo ngayon, pinepresenta in support of Article 1 Confidential Fund, most of them ay galing sa Inquiry in Aid of Legislation noong 2024 ng Committee on Good Government and Public Accountability. No? That is why, mapapansin nyo din, during the presentation of witnesses, ngayon, dito sa Confidential Fund, maraming videos, ang ipinapa-confirm. Maraming transcript ang ipinapa-confirm. Just like the questions raised to Gina Acosta doon sa House, kung saan ang inyong lingkod ang nagtanong sa kanya, almost the same series of questions na ni-raise ni Attorney Virgil Ligutan, no? Tapos kanina naman kay Mr. Ortonio, napansin nyo yung mga transcript and I was looking at the transcript from the screen, si Congressman Valeriano naman ang nagtatanong sa kanya during the time of the investigation of the Committee on Good Government and Public Accountability. But of course, we acknowledge iba ito sapagkat impeachment trial na ito, and that is why we need to present and identify the pieces of evidence that we wanted to be included in the evidence in support of misuse of confidential fund in this impeachment trial.
Naalala ko yung, ikaw rin nagtanong sa akin noon sa press con na bakit huminto yung investigasyon patungo dun sa AFP during the committee hearings. Ikaw yung nagtanong din sa akin noon, Ate Rose, di ba? Sabi ko kasi may kinokonduct na magkakaroon na ng investigation within their ranks. So, sabi nga ni Attorney Jay, well established naman po na may utos po galing sa Vice President, nakuha na yung pera, na-release po yung pera, pero parang ang tema po nila, yung itong mga nakarang araw is parang may nilalaglag sila eh. May nilalaglag sila eh. At parang ang dating sa mga statements nila, parang ang nilalaglag nila si security officer, si Colonel La Chica. Yun lang.
Super last na lang, so sorry. Although magkahiwalay po yung proseso ng impeachment at saka ito pong ombudsman, but will this impeachment trial significantly help the PI or the preliminary investigation of the ombudsman in relation with the confidential funds controversy?
These are two separate proceedings, no? As a matter of fact, kahit yung mga nilatag naming ebidensya dito, if not presented and submitted to the ombudsman, the latter cannot consider them. Magkaibang proceeding. Itong impeachment at yung sa ombudsman na investigation. If at all, lahat ng mga evidence dito dapat mai-present din sa ombudsman if the purpose or intention really is to help and support the administrative investigation and even the preliminary investigation before the office of the ombudsman. Yun pong nasa ombudsman, dalawang aspeto yun. Isang administratibo at isang criminal aspect. So if the office of the ombudsman will find basis for both, no? Pwedeng magkaroon ng resolution on the administrative aspect, magkaroon ng administrative penalty, such as termination or suspension, and even perpetual disqualification to hold public office. Ito po yung sa administrative aspect. Yung isang aspeto po ng investigasyon ng ombudsman is on the criminal aspect. Kapag nakakita sila ng reasonable certainty of conviction, which is the new quantum of evidence required in the office of the ombudsman, then the necessary information will be filed in the Sandigan Bayan for trial on criminal cases. But certainly, iba po yun, iba itong impeachment na ito. So, let's hear from the House of Representatives. Mangumusta tayo kung may bago pang development, apart from the submission of the counter affidavits of the respondents, dun sa isinasagawang investigasyon ng ombudsman.
Alright.
Kung Pao, sorry, pwede pa elaborate lang, yes, Pao, yung sinasabi nyo, tingin nyo po may nilalaglag na sila, si Colonel Achika.
Ako, basa ko. Kasi paulit-ulit nila minimension yung pangalan nila. Parang nag-hands off sila, naghuhugas kamay. Pero paano nila i-escape yung accountability? Yung mga disbursing officer, inutusan naman at saka binigyan ng authority ng Vice President. So, she's very much accountable. Siyang pinaka-accountable dito. Kahit na parang ganun yung dating nila kasi parang siya yung pinaka-list na na may capability or may authority to handle yung pera na yun. Puro siya na yung parang nirerekta sa katinuturo. Na-establish na ni Gina Acosta galing na sa bunganga niya. So, the Vice President is accountable for this.
Do you also share the same sentiment po kay Kong Ridon? He said po kanina na he's urging the ombudsman na imbestigahan na natin to, itong possible malversation po ng confidential funds. Hindi lang dapat ordinaryong kawani si Acosta and the Chica yung managot o posibleng makulong nga dito.
Si Terry nagsabi nun.
Yes,
Oh,
dapat
idol
daw
ko
po
kasi
higit
si
sa
Terry.
lahat.
He's
Si
my
VP
idol growing
Higit sa
up.
lahat, dapat daw po si VP Sara Duterte yung makulong sakaling mapatunayan na yun.
When I grow up, I wanna be like Terry Ridon. Hindi, magkabatch kami ni Terry, baka sabihin niyo maganda naman po yung punto ni Kong Terry, no? Pero ako naman, ibang daan din ang tatahakin yon. Pero andito na rin tayo sa impeachment eh. Hindi naman po nahihirapan yung prosecution na ipalabasin o ilatag po yung mga different na situations na nandito na ngayon. Tingin ko medyo parang solved na nga ako dun pa lang hanggang kay Gina Acosta pa lang yung mismong sinabi niya na ang nag-give ng go signal yung Office of the Vice President saka yung Vice Presidente. So dun pa lang mabigat na yung pananagutan
To add something to that, no? Siguro wag tayong malito dahil sa lahat ng testigo na presenta ng prosecution, merong commonality. At kanina, sa impeachment court mismo, nanggaling yung tanong, pwede ba mag-request ng confidential fund ng walang basbas, walang utos ang head of agency? The witness's answer is no. Pwede bang gamitin, gastusin ang confidential fund nang walang utos o hindi nalalaman ng head of agency? Ang sagot din, hindi. Pwede bang mag-submit ng accomplishment report or liquidation report nang walang conformity ang head of agency? Hindi pa rin. Ibig sabihin, simula nung mag-request ng confidential fund, hanggang sa gastusin ang confidential fund, hanggang sa i-liquidate ito, lahat nang gagaling sa utos ng head of agency. Whether it is Ortonio or Acosta, merong commonality ang testimony nila. And that is, lahat ng ginawa nila nanggaling sa utos ng head of agency.
Alright, thank you. Ma'am Milky, ikaw naman po.
Milky Rigunan, DCRH. Balikan ko lang, ma'am, yung kay Attorney J. Tolosa. Yung sinabi mo kanina na, tama ba na sa ngayon, hindi kailangan ng prosecution na paharapin pa si Colonel La Chica?
Sa ngayon, we're having a continuous deliberation and analysis on that matter. So wala pa kaming final decision to whether or not we'll call him.
This afternoon, sabi rin po ng Armed Forces of the Philippines na terminated yung investigation sa kaso ni La Chica kasi meron ng ongoing or pending investigation sa ombudsman. Hindi po ba, o kung ipapatawag po siya ng depensa, ito po ba ay risky sa panig po ng defense kung tatayong testigo nila si La Chica?
Can you repeat that last part? Yeah.
Oo. Hindi ba risky sa panig ng depensa na kukunin nilang testigo si La Chica?
It's up to them, no? And in their pre-trial brief, they identified there at least 5 representatives of the Vice President Security Group. So if they want to call him, since their own people, no, sila Acosta, they've been pointing to Colonel La Chica. So that discretion could be exercised by the defense team. Nasa kanila yan. No? To clarify, we're not forcing them. We're not to call him as a witness. What we're just saying, if they want to call him, then we'll welcome that and we'll be ready to cross-examine him.
Congresswoman Cherville, your reaction po.
Well, I will be very honest with you. I am more inclined not to present La Chica and Nolasco. My position is simple. May misuse na ba Nung sinabi ni Gina Acosta na tinurn over niya the entire amount to the security officer, who is a non-accountable officer. May misappropriation na ba? May irregular liquidation na ba? For me, maliwanag na ang naging testimonya ni Gina Acosta. We are just waiting for the testimony of Edward Fajarda with respect to the confidential fund of the Department of Education, no? Kasi si Gina Acosta sa OVP yan, na CF. Si Edward Fajarda ang para naman sa SDO ng confidential fund ng DepEd, no? But this is just my personal position. As a matter of practice, we always decide as a team, no? And that's why yung sinasabi ni Attorney Jay na we will be deliberating with each other and come up with our final decision as a prosecution team whether or not to present La Chica and Velasco. And to your question, kung ito ba ay magiging risky sa part ng prosecution na i-present siya ng defense, definitely not. As a matter of fact, it will provide us opportunity to cross-examine Colonel La Chica and Colonel Velasco without presenting them as part of the prosecution's witnesses.
Congresswoman Cherville, sabi mo, kung ikaw, ayaw mo na silang parapin, La Chica and Nolasco.
That is my personal position.
Yes, personal position. But this will be the decision of the whole prosecution team. Gaano po kabigat? O ilang porsyento po yung position nyo sa desisyon ng prosecution team?
Marami kami, di ba? We are composed of 11 public and I believe around 20 private prosecutors already, no? Definitely, may bosses ang bawat isa sa amin and I will be more convinced if the position which we will be adopting will be the position of the entire prosecution team. Yung sa akin lang, I am always guided by the allegations in the articles of impeachment. Kasi ito yung Biblia natin eh. This is what we need to prove. Eh pagdating dito sa Article 1, confidential fund, ang liwanag. Misuse, misappropriation, irregular liquidation of confidential fund. Ang tanong, na-establish na ba yan? Nung present mo ang bangko, ang state auditor, at ang SDO? In my position, I don't think there's a need to present Colonel La Chica and Colonel Nolasco. But again, that is personal. We will have to wait for the official position of the entire prosecution team.
Thank you, Ma'am Milky. Go ahead.
Good afternoon po. For Kong Jervil po siguro kasi nasagot na po ito kanina ni Kong Pao. So far as you remember, ano po ang observation natin dito sa naging way ng pagsagot ni Limuel Ortonio compare po dun sa naging House hearings natin as a resource person po siya?
Well, ang observation ko kay Mr. Ortonio, he always anchors his answer on the documents. He will always say, based on the documents. Bago siya sumagot, palaging sasabihin niya, ikaw ba ang sumulat nito? Based on the documents. Ikaw ba ang nag-submit ito? That is based on the documents, no? So, I cannot remember anymore the manner of him answering the questions in the Committee on Good Government and Public Accountability. But substance-wise, tingin ko naman almost the same, no? And to distinguish this naman from the answer of Gina Acosta kahapon, si Gina Acosta naman, he always goes back to, siya po ang security officer, no? So kung si Ortonio, base po yan sa dokumento, si Gina naman, she's repeatedly saying, siya po ang security officer.
Pangalawa po, since inaabangan po natin yung magiging desisyon ng impeachment court bukas about dito sa sub judice rule, may napag-aaralan na po bang magiging adjustment ang PROSEC sa mga magiging interview or press con po sa media?
Ako, I am very much confident that the entire prosecution team has always been very much conscious and aware of the limitation in making public comments, no? Maliwanag naman yung nakasaad sa Senate Rules on Impeachment, huwag mag-comment sa merito ng impeachment case. And this prohibition is binding not only to the prosecution, it is likewise binding to the defense, the senator judges, and even the parties, including the respondent vice president. So ang position namin, we maintain the position, kami po ay nag-iingat, wala po kaming nilalabag, and if indeed may makikitang violation sa amin, ang impeachment court, we hope that the impeachment court will be uniform and fair in implementing the sub judice rule. Ibig sabihin, if they will be calling the attention of the prosecution, they must call as well the attention of the senator judges and that of the parties, including the respondent vice president, who might be violating as well the sub judice rule.
Security officer po ako ni Kong Jinky, kaya hindi ako covered ng sub-judice. Pero mas sila po yata, I'm sure they will reconsider or makikita nila po yung relevance kasi po during our press con or interviews, dun po kinakausap kasi yung taong bayan. So, nakikita po natin yung halaga nung hearing, nakikita po natin na sagrado din po yung ating hearing. Pero kailangan din po siguro makita yung importansya ng pakikipag-usap ng kahit anumang side sa taong bayan para mas maintindihan din po nila kung ano po yung nangyayari dito sa impeachment.
Last na lang po on my end, sorry po. Siguro for Kong Pao din po siguro to kasi baka ma-relate sa subjudice. Pero may naging comment po si Yusek Claire about po dito sa impeachment trial na para sa kanya, malinaw daw po na may naging testimonya si OVP Special Dispersing Gina Acosta na nagpapatunay nga po na nilabag ng bise itong paggamit ng confidential fund. May sapat na daw pong ebidensya. Ano pong comments niyo po about that?
Actually, medyo similar nga yung nasabi ko kanina na hindi niya maiiwasan yung accountability niya sa bagay na to eh. Siguro, klaro naman, very clear naman po yun as also stated by our prosecutors na kasama natin dito kanina, na establish na nga po yun. Siguro nag-echo lang si Attorney Claire kasi ano rin po siya abogado rin siya So naiintindihan niya yung mga ganyan na paraan, ganyan na proseso. So I guess may basis po yung statement niya, and a strong one at that.
Can I add quickly? Tama ba yung sabi niya dahil dun sa pagsabi ni Gina Acosta na may pag-uutos si Vice Presidente, maliwanag na may paglalabag ang Vice Presidente? Sige. Siguro, to answer that, I'll again refer us to the testimony of Attorney Roderick Wamil regarding that matter. Sorry, Ms. Zailin Del Campo. Sabi niya, precisely because of that admission, which she first heard during the hearings before the Congress, na kung saan din unang inamin ni Ginang Acosta na binigay niya tong pera na to kay Colonel La Chica na hindi SDO. Ano ang appreciation niya doon? She found it as clear violation of the Joint Circular 2015-01. So sinabi niya, it is so serious such that it led them to issue a notice of disallowance for all 3 quarters of 2023. So this is not us saying that it's a violation. This is the statement of Zailin Del Campo, the COA auditor who audited their liquidation of the fund, saying it's a serious violation of the Joint Circular 2015-01, and she found it as an irregularity.
Salamat po. Ben, ikaw naman.
In connection naman po dun sa concern ni Senator Zubiri kung baka daw abutin ng Pasko tsaka ipit nga sa budget briefing itong impeachment trial, is it possible po ba na after talakayin itong article na to ng impeachment and the next ay putulin na ng Prosec kung sapat naman na yung mga ebidensyang nailatag? Since sabi nyo rin po na solve na kayo dun pa lang sa statement ni Gina Acosta, or paano pa po kayo mapa-fast track?
Well, kagaya ng na-share ko kanina, as a matter of practice of the prosecution, we always revisit the list of our witnesses, determine kung sino talaga ang kailangang ipresenta, and determine kung sinong pwedeng i-dispense na. So this is one measure by which we will be able to expedite the presentation of the evidence of the prosecution. To be honest with you, we really want to finish at least before the end of October, no? We understand we still have bribery. We understand we still have unexplained wealth, which entails a lot of witnesses as well, similar to this confidential fund. But ideally, we do not want to prolong too much this impeachment trial. I personally agree with some senator judges that this should not go beyond this year, no? Baka mapagod na ang taong bayan. Let us consider as well that it entails public interest at yung mga usapin na may kinalaman ang taong bayan, dapat hindi pinapatagal. Dapat dinidesisyonan na agad. Kaya in as far as we are concerned, ayaw namin ng paulit-ulit na testigo, ayaw namin ng pare-parehas na testimonya, ayaw namin ng testigo na hindi na kailangan sapagkat na-establish na. No? And ideally, we want to finish at least before the end of October, the prosecution's presentation of evidence.
All right, thank you. Lianesca, your turn.
Good afternoon po. Lianesca Pantilla, May News Online. Pansin ko lang po kasi sa roll call kanina on senator judges, only 15 of them are present. As we are all aware, as it is, 16 po yung kailangan to secure conviction. I was just wondering, what happens po kung during the judgment day, if 15 lang ang pumasok? So, obviously with that number, 16 is impossible to reach. I would just like to ask if ano po yung remedy ng prosecution when that situation arises.
Alam mo kasi
yung mga sunod-sunod lang po kasi yung
Yeah.
hindi sila umaabot ng 16 sa floor. So, I decided to ask the question today.
apparently, ang tinitingnan ko lang po ay attendance ng prosecutors. Hindi ko po tinitingnan ang attendance ng senator judges, no? But seriously, no? Let us not be confused. Ang trabaho po ng prosecution is to present the evidence. Deciding on this impeachment case is the constitutional duty of the senators. As far as we are concerned, we are midway. Malapit na po kaming matapos ng confidential fund. 2 articles na lang. Once we are done with our presentation, we will be doing the cross pagdating ng presentation ng defense. Pag natapos ang trial, na-comply na po namin ang aming constitutional duty. It is up to the senator judges to comply with their constitutional duty. And that is to decide on this impeachment case.
Having said that po, they should be present.
Because that is a constitutional duty.
Tama po.
Kasi
They should be present during the judgment day.
kami ni na Kong Pao and the rest of the public prosecutors and even the private prosecutors, meron kaming mga iba't ibang challenges sa aming district, some with respect to their private practice, and we all know that the contribution of the private prosecutors are voluntary basis, right? Pero all of us are here because we acknowledge our constitutional duty at sa part naman ng private prosecutors, kagaya ng sinabi nila, para sa bayan nito. So, tinitindigan namin kung anong aming inumpisahan. Tatapusin namin ito. Now, pagdating sa decision on this impeachment case, that does not belong to us. It belongs to the senator judges. And we understand that the Filipino people is watching.
All right. Joseph, go ahead.
Sir, ay ma'am. pick up lang yung point ko na you wanna finish back ang tag doon na may pre-interview. But if you wanna finish in October, mid-October, you have end of October. Okay, so mga 10 weeks yan. How are you going to do that? Mabigat yung unexplained wealth mo because the BIR, AMLAC, bank records, ilang bank records yan, di ba? Paano yun ma-abbreviate?
That is why I've been sharing to the media that as a matter of practice, we always revisit the list of the prosecution's witnesses. We apply the test of repetition. Kapag repetition na, dispense. We apply the test of redundancy. The same, paulit-ulit na, dispense. We apply the test of lack of necessity, hindi na kailangan, dispense. We are focused very much on the allegations contained in the articles of impeachment. Suffice it to say, kung ano lang kailangan, yun lang ang aming iprepresenta.
But you will still present articles 413, 3 and 2, no?
Yes, we acknowledge that. We have 2 more articles remaining. Article on bribery and article on unexplained wealth. But ideally, as I have said, ideally, this should not be prolonged because the people are watching, the people are waiting, and accountability should not be made to wait. Kapag natapos ang trial, we let the impeachment court decide whether the respondent vice president is guilty or not.
I'd like to go back to Colonel Lachica because I don't think you want to present him because if you wanted to present him, you would have made the decision and, ask for a subpoena. So, mukhang wala na siya, right?
Like what I have said earlier, ang personal position ko, no need. But of course, that is just my personal position. By practice, we have to consult each other, come up with the official position of the team. And that is why Attorney Jay was saying earlier, wala pang official position ang prosecution team, whether to present or not, the 2 security officers in the person of Colonel Lachica and Colonel Nolasco.
Hindi ba clear whether you need him or not?
For me, it's clear.
For the
But
others?
we need to arrive the official position of the entire team.
When?
Soon.
Baka nasa Article 1 na tayo, ma. 4-1 na pala, 3.
Definitely, we cannot conclude or we cannot move to the next article without deciding on whether to present or not the 2 security officers.
So,
You will know before we end the presentation of our evidence on confidential fund. Pag hindi nyo sila nakita, ibig sabihin, we decided not to present.
All right. We have one last question.
Just to push the point further. So, are you saying, di ba, is it safe to say that the prosecution is divided in terms of presenting Colonel Lachica? Kasi kayo po, as the lead prosecutor, malinaw sa inyo, but are you as a prosecution divided?
How can that be divided when I defer to the official position of the entire team? We might have a varied and different personal positions, but at the end of the day, we come up with one position only for the entire prosecution team. And that's why I said my inclination is not to present, but that is personal position. I defer to the entire prosecution team.
Meron pong phone-in question from Doy.
Actually, may decision na yung prosecution. Pag-uusapan muna nila.
And siguro po,
So may nag-advocate po sa prosecution panel na isa lang si Lachica?
Well, I acknowledge that there are some who are inclined to present, especially the presiding officer even articulated yesterday that the name of Colonel Lachica has been repeatedly mentioned, but his name is not one of those of the AFP officers whom we're requesting subpoena, right? No? There are some who are inclined to present him, some are not inclined to present him, and we need to come up with one position as a team.
Sige, last point na po dun sa akin regarding lang dun sa timeline. Kasi Kong, you've mentioned po noon that you still have 2 articles to present, bribery and unexplained wealth. Pero hindi po ba, sa ngayon po, no, wala na, is it safe to say or is it safe to assume na wala sa konsiderasyon ng prosecution na i-drop yung Article 3 and just move forward with the unexplained wealth?
That is part of the decisions that we have yet to make, no? Hindi pa rin namin na pag-uusapan yan, whether to drop or not the article on bribery, because we understand that that is an equally important article of impeachment.
All right. Thank you. Kung wala nang katanungan, siguro does our members of the panel want to have a final say before we conclude? Ayun. May another question?
Plano po bang ipatawag ng prosecution bilang testigo si dating PNP Secretary Delfin Lorenzano na siya pumunta sa pag-aproba ng DPSPG para direktang linawin ang basihan ng dagdag na personnel at allowance?
There is no such consideration yet, no? Bagaman I understand na share ko na din ito sa public that while there's a list of prosecution witnesses, hindi naman yan permanent, hindi naman yan final. Depending on the progress of the trial, we can add, anchoring the same on reservation, and we can dispense some. Depende sa nagiging development sa trial.
All right. Maybe on that note, magpasalamat na tayo sa ating mga guests ngayong hapon, si Chair Jinky Luistro, si DS Paulo Ortega, at si Attorney J. Tolosa Jr. Maraming salamat po sa ating mga kaibigan sa media, sa ating mga kababayan na patuloy na sumusubaybay. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat.